Another type we have to look at is the literal type. Now this type is a little bit interesting, and I think the best way to make you understand it is to just show you an example. So let's say I have a variable, so I'm going to call it user type, for example, and then I'm going to give it a type. Now this time I'm not going to use an existing type like string or number or anything like that. I'm just going to define the type that I want as an actual value. So here I'm gonna put user, and I'm just gonna put it in uppercase. You don't have to put it in uppercase, but I just want to show you the example. So the type of user type, let's say it can be user or it can be admin. So this is the type that we have. If I put my mouse on it, you're gonna see that it's gonna say the type is user, which is a string, the string user all uppercase, or the string admin all uppercase. And this is the actual type of the variable. Now what that means is that I can only assign these two values to this variable and nothing else. So let's say I go down and then I say user type, and then I try to set it equal to a string, and you can already see that it's giving me the two possible values that this string can have, because that's the type it's defined as the literal type. And for example, if I put user in lowercase, you're gonna see that it's giving me an error. If I put someone's name, for example, it's going to give me an error. The only two possible values that this variable can have is user and admin. As you can see here, when I hit control space, I can see that those are the two possible values. So let's say I'm going to choose user. Now you can see that the error goes away. And of course, I can change that to admin. So I can do admin, and you see that the error goes away as well. And this can be very, very useful when you really want to be very strict about the possible values that can be passed to a variable or to a function or something like that. And I can also show you a quick example. So let's say down here I have a function. Let's say this is the save user function. So this function, let's say we're going to have it take a user ID, and this is going to be, let's say, a number, and then we're going to have it take a type, and then let's say this type can either be user or admin. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this up here and then place it down. And let's say this function is returning void. So I'm going to put void and then open and close. And here I can have a condition. I can say if the type, and then I can check to see if it equals either user or admin. And then I can take a different logic. And you can see that once I put the quotations, it's giving me the two possible values that this can have. So let's say if it's user, then I'm going to do some logic here. Otherwise, I'm going to do some different logic. So you can see that this can be really, really useful. So let's console.log, and let's say template literal, and I'm going to say saving new admin, and let's put this on the new line. So I'm going to do a new line here, and then let's pass in the values that we got. So let's say $, opening and close curly braces, and then user ID, and then let's also do the type just so that we can see it. And I'm gonna do something similar. So I'm gonna duplicate this line, and I'm gonna press Alt and then the up arrow key just to move this up, and clean this space, put the semicolon. And now you can see that we can have something like this. We can have a setup like this, and that would work just fine. And then I can go down and then save user, and then let's say I'm gonna pass 10, and then I'm gonna put opening and close, and you can see that it's giving me the options that I can pass. I'm gonna choose user, then duplicate this again, and then this time I'm gonna pass admin, and let's say, I don't know, this is 50 for example. And also I have to fix this, so this is gonna be user in lowercase. So if it's user, then we're gonna say saving new user. Otherwise it's gonna be admin here, so or something that's not user, then it's gonna fall into this else statement. So let's go ahead and run this code. And you can see that saving user 10, and then here's the user, saving admin 50, and then admin. And we can also do this with type aliases as well. So if I go down here and I say type, and let's say I'm defining some variable, I'm gonna do binary in all caps, and then set it equal to, let's say 0 or a 1. So let's say this is the type definitions. So now I can go down and then let's say let client ID, for example, and then I give it a type of binary. So now if I go down and then try to assign something to the client ID, you can see that I can only pass in two values. And I'm going to do control space. You can see that it's telling me that I can pass 0 or 1. And if I pass anything else, let's say I pass 3, for example, it's going to give me an error. I pass 5, another error. I pass 10, another error. I can only pass either 1, as you can see here, the error is gone, or I can pass in 0. So you can also do it with type aliases as well. So literal type is very, very useful, and it's really just defining the type in the form of a value. So you say this type or this kind of variable can only be assigned these values. And usually you see it with an or statement. Like you wouldn't say something like this, like this, because it has to make sense. So you wouldn't have something like this. Otherwise you could have just defined this as a user. So you'd have something like this, with some or. You can have like 3 or 4 or 5, and then you can only assign those exact values to the variable whose type is the type that you define up here. So literal type, very, very useful. And I use them when I'm coding, and they're very, very extremely useful. Make your code really, really clean.